Previously, rich man called Kinji is summoned to another world where he must start from the bottom. He meets new friends and starts a business against all the odds. One day while he was in a brand new world, he gets summoned once again, but this time he time travels. The demon lord explains to him how he was summoned to help save this world from annihilation, and he is granted a very powerful weapon. Kinji goes to the dungeon to test his new weapon, and it goes crazy, binding itself to him forever. While in the dungeon, his company stumbles upon a structure where they are attacked by weird-looking zombified workers. They grab one from the exploration team called Eldman, turning him into one of them. After acquiring Eldman, the zombified workers retreat into the ruin. It is then that the group realizes that Kinji is missing, with only his underwear left where he was last seen. Thanks to Rim's amazing sense of smell, she is able to tell where Kinji is located. Following her nose, they find a hidden passage leading deeper into the dungeon. It is there that they find where the zombified workers are coming from. Apparently, they are all being brainwashed by some spell that makes them work, endlessly creating potions. In order to find a way to break the spell, the group pretends to be zombified as well and starts helping them with their work. Soon enough, Shia ends up blowing their cover, forcing them to fight their way through to the sign that is creating the magic effect. Working together, they manage to reach the sign and break it, freeing all the workers and Eldman from the brainwashing spell. Continuing after Kinji's scent, Rim leads them to their target. While finding Kinji, they also find the one responsible for all this trouble. It turns out that the ghost story was somewhat accurate, as an ancient mage who was betrayed and forced to work to death is back as an undead, holding a grudge against all the people of this world. Kinji happened to resemble the person who betrayed her in the past, so she pulled him away from others. But realizing that he is not the one she thought he was, she apologizes for her mistake. The mage's goal is to make everyone work as hard as she did back when she died, so everyone will know her suffering. But Kinji tells her that people are already forced to work to death as it is, so her plan would not affect anything. Hearing that allows the mage's spirit to find peace, thanking Kinji for bringing her such wonderful news before she vanishes into the afterlife. Moving on further into the dungeon, they stumble upon a desolate shop belonging to the company. The owner of the store is a girl named Cindy, who is unable to meet her quota because of the lack of people coming down lately. Kinji tries to convince her to give them freebies because they both dislike the company, but she refuses. She is determined to fight for the shop for as long as she can so she can one day buy it back from the company. Witnessing her determination, Kinji decides to help her with her struggle. Hearing that she was forced to buy the potions made by the undead mage, Kinji comes up with an idea, offering to help her turn a profit with her store in exchange for a massive discount on all of the best adventuring gear she has in stock. Cindy agrees, and they begin by rebranding the potions and adding a bit of addictive substances into it, while advertising it to everyone in the dungeon. This manages to rack up quite the profit for the store. Unfortunately, agents from the company come and shut down the potion distribution as it violates their company policy. Kinji sees that as a good time to leave, so him and his group leave behind Cindy to handle the aftermath while they delve deeper into the dungeon. On the next floor, they stumble across more members of the company. After saving them from the monsters that were chasing them, they learn that all of them are stuck on this floor as it has been sealed in both directions. Escorting them to their outpost, they find it besieged by more monsters. Lucky for them, some wolves and ants attack the hostile monsters, lifting the siege of the outpost. Just as they are observing that, a long-haired lady carrying a child runs up to Kinji. She is overwhelmed by happiness from finding him again, which makes she worried that this lady might be Kinji's mistress. But after even Kinji cannot recognize her, she reveals to be the Ant Queen, who has gained the ability to change into a humanoid shape. In the outpost, they have a meeting where she explains that she was forced to evacuate with her kind as the dungeon began changing all of a sudden. On their way, they stumbled upon the Majin, Rim's sister, who was recovering from the injury inflicted to her by Rim in her humanoid form. Upon seeing how cute she was, the Ant Queen decided to take care of her. The Ant Queen explains how Majins are responsible for controlling the flow of magic inside of the dungeon, and since Rim left abruptly, the second Majin was created in haste, which made her incomplete. After Rim injured and weakened her, the dungeon went into complete chaos, and it is affecting the Majin as well. She tells them that if they manage to heal a Majin, the dungeon should return to its original state. Rim feels responsible for the Majin's state, so she tries to help her in her own way, bringing some food to her. But the Majin is very hostile and distrusting towards everyone, lashing out at her when she tries to help. Rim is feeling depressed as she feels responsible for what happened to the Majin. She also asks Kinji to help her heal the Majin, and upon hearing her sincerity, he agrees to help. The next day, he orders everyone in the outpost to help him restore the balance among the monsters on the current floor in order to repair the damaged ecosystem, reasoning that this will help heal Majin, who is greatly affected by everything that happens in the dungeon. While they are hard working on that part, Rim is staying with the Majin, trying to tend to her despite the Majin's hostility. Noticing how unwell the Majin really is, Rim does everything in her power to help reduce her fever, finally convincing her to eat some medicine. Thanks to everything Rim did for her, the Majin starts warming up to her. At the same time, thanks to the efforts of others, the ecosystem of the current floor has been mended. This causes the Majin to slowly start feeling better again. Returning to the outpost, they find that the Majin has become quite attached to Rim, but still very shy when interacting with anyone else. Kinji suggests to Rim that she should give her a proper name, as the Majin is a title more than anything. And so Rim decides to give her the name Sky, as that is the prettiest thing Rim has ever seen after she left the dungeon. Suddenly, Sky is overcome by pain as something within the dungeon changes for the worse. Belza's personal bodyguards, led by a Luz, are engaged in a hopeless struggle against the never-ending waves of boss monsters that the dungeon keeps spawning to stop them. Thanks to restoring the ecosystem on the previous floor, Kinji and his party arrive just in time to save them, evacuating together with them back to safety. Kinji is doing his best to be charismatic with them, gaining their trust and convincing them to join him into launching a coordinated attack against the monsters. Luz wonders why he is doing all of that, and Kinji tells him it is for his friend Sky, who is still suffering. Their coordinated attack proves fruitful as they clear a way to the pillars that are creating the monsters. Rim destroys the pillars, ensuring no more new monsters are created. This turns to be exactly what Sky needed as her situation stabilizes and she stops being in pain. Pushing on to the next floor, they find themselves at the location which Belza is seeking. Under the guise of checking for traps, Kinji marches on first towards the source of the dungeon's power. Upon reaching it, he draws the power into himself, seizing control of the dungeon and taking it all for himself. Luz and his men are shocked by this betrayal as he reveals that he tricked them all along. Promising that he will put the dungeon's power to a good use, he declares that he will change this world into a paradise led by him and his Dungeon Black Company. Exercising his new power, he creates monsters and makes them march around outside the dungeon as a show of power. Flying over to Belza's headquarters, he hands her his letter of resignation, as well as a sack of gems that should cover all of his debt. Belza realizes that he must have seized what she was after, and while she is outraged at him, he laughs back at her, leaving her to her ranting. 3 months pass, and Kinji managed to build a large business empire. He began taking over dungeons and turning them into adventure parks of sorts, inviting people from all over to come and visit. While delivering the weekly sales report to Kinji, Ranga asks him why he decided to do this. Kinji explains that he read a manual which he got access to after seizing the power from the dungeon. In this manual, it was explained how dungeons need people to come into them so they draw magic from them, returning it into the flow of magic through the world, which in return causes more Demonite to appear in those dungeons. Because of that, he bought and opened up old dungeons that were deemed depleted, as they only need an influx of people into them to spring back to life. Belza has an emergency meeting with all the dungeon masters of different branches in order to figure out their next plan of action against Kinji's company, as their stocks have begun to plummet. Kinji bursts into their meeting, offering to buy out their company and have them work under him. But Belza straight up refuses his offer, offended by the way he's treating her. And so, a few days later, Kinji causes the market of Demonite to completely crash as he floods it with his own. Not only that, but he takes customers away from their stores by creating his own stores with a delivery service. Cindy is happy with the way things are going, as her shop has never been so profitable before, thanks to Kinji using it for his company. Wannabe turned out to have a knack refining Demonite, as he has engrossed himself in research. Even though Kinji forced him to join him in the beginning, he is grateful for being given this chance, as he has accomplished far more than he ever thought he could. Belza and her subordinate are drowning their sorrow in alcohol, and they run into Ranga. Without disclosing too much about himself, Ranga reveals things about Belza's past, telling her it is not too late to change her ways. But instead of trying to change, she chases Ranga away, and upon doing so, ends up thinking of a way to utilize Shia, who stubbornly refused to leave the company she has worked her entire life for. Kinji ends up getting arrested for violating numerous laws. It turns out that Belza gathered dirt on him and exposed it to the public, revealing the immoral stuff he did in the past, while also inventing more things to besmirch his name. In order to be able to do so, she tricked Shia to tell her every dirty thing he did. Kinji ends up getting tortured by a special threats investigator, but he remains silent at all times. She finds him in the prison, shocked and upset at the state he is in after the torture. Blaming herself for everything, she apologizes to Kinji while healing him, telling him that she only wanted to make sure people are not being abused. But Kinji is not upset at her, explaining how the two of them are different, so it is inevitable that they will clash sometimes. While remembering his childhood, he tells her that he will never give up. Instead, he will continue trying to rise to a height where no one can bind him. Kinji's friends, being worried about his life, have resorted to the emergency manual he had left behind in case something went seriously wrong. A month later, the company shareholder meeting is taking place. It is this meeting where Belzet is promoted from dungeon master into the director of the company. Her celebration is short-lived as suddenly the spokesman announces that they will be taking in Kinji and appointing him as the new CEO of the company. Belzet is at a loss, not understanding what the meaning of this is. Kinji's friends, who are also present at the meeting, speak up, explaining how they used all the capital that the Dungeon Black Company attained in order to buy enough shares in Belz's company to hold the majority. Then, after getting connected with many of their important shareholders, they secured their majority for the vote to get Kinji involved. At that point, Kinji bursts into the meeting room, revealing that thanks to Shia's efforts, he has been deemed falsely arrested and consequently released by the special threats investigator herself. Thanks to that, Kinji's company completely takes over Belz's company, having her work under him from here on out. As time passes, Wannabe notices that Kinji is acting differently. Thinking how he decided to leave them and return to his world, Wannabe comes together with Shia, Rim, and Ranga, and they decide to throw a big farewell party for him. At the party, it is revealed that Wannabe misunderstood what Kinji was planning, as he declares that he will be making it his next goal to acquire dungeons all over this world, spreading the Dungeon Black Company to all corners of it. Wondering why they thought he would ever abandon a world in which he put so much effort into. They are all happy that he will be staying. And so, Kinji prepares himself for his next goal, namely taking over the entire world. Hey, thank you for staying all the way till the end. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. It takes only a second, but it means everything to us. Have a great day and see you in the next video.